Hello, you're with me, Ling Hương from Hanoi, and thank you for tuning in to this live edition of VTV News. Here come the headlines for this hour. State President Trương Tấn Sang visits Laos to boost the traditional bilateral ties, solidarity and cooperation. Vietnam's March Consumer Price Index, or CPI, rises after 4-month fall. Nua Market on the outskirts of Hanoi still maintains the characteristics of a Vietnamese traditional market. During his working visit to Laos, Vietnamese State President Trương Tấn Sang yesterday met with Lao Prime Minister Thong Sin Thamavong and National Assembly Chairman Pani Dathattu. The visit is said to have strengthened the traditional ties, solidarity and wide-ranging cooperation between Vietnam and Laos.
At the meeting, President Sang expresses happiness to visit Laos and witness the great achievements that the Lao government, the Lao Revolutionary Party, and people have gained in the fields of politics, social security, economics, and foreign affairs. The Lao Prime Minister praised Vietnam for the great political and economic achievements and vowed to do his best to further boost the bilateral ties. The two sides also discussed other issues, including seeking solutions to increase the efficiency of important agreements, boosting trade and investment cooperation, and speeding up joint transport and energy projects. They also agreed to spend joint efforts to deal with drug smuggling, trade fraud, and illegal migration. Mentioning regional and international matters, the two sides agreed to increase cooperation in multilateral forums, especially in boosting solidarity in ASEAN. On the same day, President Trương Tấn Sang met with Lao National Assembly Chairwoman Pani Dathattu. They agreed to continue exchanges of high-ranking officials of the two parties, governments, and national assemblies, increasing the role of the national assemblies in supervising joint investment projects and human resources development. The Lao National Assembly Chairwoman will officially visit Vietnam for the 132nd Interparliamentary Union in the end of March.
Prime Minister Nguyễn Tấn Dũng met with the Vietnam Red Cross Association yesterday. At the event, the Prime Minister said he highly valued the efforts of the Red Cross Association in caring for the poor and vulnerable in past years, as well as taking part in initiatives to reduce poverty and deal with natural calamities nationwide. Campaigns held by the association, including cattle bank, forestation, housing, blood donation, and free medical checks, have received huge support from the public nationwide. Prime Minister Dũng also requested the association to make further efforts in order to contribute to the success of national socio-economic goals, strengthen the ties with international partners. He also agreed with some proposals of the association and will direct relevant state agencies to facilitate the operation of the association in the future. General Trần Đại Quang, Vietnam's Minister of Public Security, held talks with the Cuban Interior Minister Abelardo Ibarra in Havana yesterday. During the talks, both sides agreed to increase the sharing of information and experience in coping with traditional and non-traditional security threats. The two sides will also intensify collaboration in personnel training while supporting each other in the provision of specialist equipment and vehicles. Ibarra, who also sits on the country's Politburo and is a member of Cuba's State Council, said that General Trần Đại Quang's visit marked the start of a series of activities to celebrate the 55th anniversary of bilateral diplomatic ties and contributed to promoting traditional friendship between the two countries and public security forces. The 132nd Interparliamentary Union Assembly, also known as IPU 132, will be held in Hanoi from March 28th to April 1st, with the participation of nearly 2,000 domestic and international attendees. To ensure food safety during the event, the Ministry of Health is stepping up preparation, assigning health staff on guard around the clock at the venues for IPU activities, organizing food quality checks to prevent any possible incident. Food quality checks will be implemented at every phase, including transferring, processing, and preservation. This is part of the Prime Minister's request to prevent incidents relating to food that may affect physical health of attendees. The Vietnamese economy will continue to strengthen over the next 2 years, with the GDP growth estimates of 6.1% and 6.2% for this year and next year, respectively, according to Asian Development Bank. However, growth will largely depend on Vietnam's ability to undertake a deeper structural reforms. The comments were made by ADB representative at a press conference held yesterday morning in Hanoi. Minh Hằng reports.
The local economy,
according to the ADB's country economists at the press conference, the outlook for the Vietnamese economy this year remains positive. They cited positive news about low inflation, upgrades in the country's credit ratings from Moody and Fitch, and brighter prospects for major economies resulting in more export orders. As foreign direct investment, or FDI, continues to be the main economic driver this year, more is expected to be done to take advantage of the FDI spillover effect.
The key. So I think going forward, government has to be strategic. They have to think about which types of industries have the maximum potential to generate FDI spillover to the local economy. So it's not just about the quantity of FDI, but also about the quality of FDI and the potential for this linkage, the potential for the government to generate revenue, the potential to generate good quality jobs, and the potential for domestic, ordinary private sector businesses to supply.
Reports at the event shows that only 36% of Vietnamese firms are integrated into export-oriented production networks, compared with 60% in Malaysia and Thailand. That is because most local firms are still too small and accessing loans remains difficult.
There are problems that local businesses are facing to accessing credit because of their own capacity. When a local business goes to the bank to borrow, they have to be able to fill out very detailed positions on their financial position. They need to develop strong business proposals to give confidence to the bank that it will be profitable. There again, I think there needs to be a lot of strengthened business development support from the government to improve the SMEs' financial literacy and their ability to develop proposals to access credit.
Despite giving a slightly higher growth and low inflation forecast, once again, the ADB country director stressed the importance of reforms at the press conference.
Lifting economic growth over the longer term, however, will rely on Vietnam's ability to undertake deeper structural reform, in particular to support the local firms' integration into global value chains.
For the medium term, ADB experts have recommended Vietnam to implement new banking regulatory standards, attract strategic investors to state-owned enterprises, and correct fiscal imbalances as the state budget has been affected by lower oil prices. Minh Hằng, Vietnam Television, Hanoi.
The General Statistics Office reported on Tuesday morning that Vietnam's March Consumer Price Index, also known as CPI, rose by 0.15% compared to February, following a 4-month trend. However, compared to the end of last year, the first quarter CPI is still down by 0.1%.
The rise in the Consumer Price Index is partly due to the prices rise in petrol, electricity, and gas. In March, several basic necessities reported rising prices. The month also saw high demand following the Lunar New Year holiday. The CPI is predicted to rise in the coming summer months due to rising prices and increased electricity use.
The Consumer Price Index depends on many things. I think the rising petrol price is only a small factor, as petrol prices are predicted to fall in the coming months. However, as the summer approaches, the rising electricity price will largely affect the CPI.
Despite rising CPI for March, the first quarter's CPI is still down by 0.1%, ensuring the low inflation rate set by the government. Consumer goods will not fluctuate in price, so future CPI rates will depend on the price changes of goods managed by the government.
Now, as the ASEAN Economic Community will be established on December 31st, many export enterprises are now analyzing what tariff barriers exist in potential export markets. Economists have recommended that firms focus on specific goods or niche markets as a solution to effectively tap into the ASEAN market.
As the global economic recession affected Vietnamese businesses 6 years ago, massive enterprises decided to minimize their imports and cut costs, awaiting better market prospects. However, this company instead decided to buy more materials at a cheap price. After a short time, as the market recovered and the price of wood rebounded, the company received a lot of orders and its profit doubled.
Thị trường ngách nó
When big markets have a problem monetarily, it will have a big effect on businesses. But if the companies target a niche market, which is normally small, the loss that they may suffer would be reduced. Moreover, niche markets can even help the enterprises obtain orders and interest from larger markets.
thị trường ngách đó nó lại giúp cho doanh nghiệp.
According to economist Vũ Kim Hạnh, Vietnamese businesses should take advantage of their unique products to gain a foothold in the ASEAN market.
Ở Việt Nam chúng ta thì doanh nghiệp
Many enterprises in Vietnam are now also mindful of the niche market concept. As far as I know, while looking for the market, they're always trying to find the fields that suit them the most in terms of scale, trade conditions, and consumer demand.
phù hợp với lại họ nhất.
Experts say that most of the big enterprises in Vietnam are conscious of the importance of niche markets and distribution. Amid stiff competition from foreign beverage firms, this company has still seen success.
We've made a great effort to establish a firm foothold with the domestic market, as this is our main market with 90 million consumers. However, we also have invested in overseas markets. Last year, we offered our products to 15 countries, although some places are totally new markets to us. We've had good sales with turnover accounting for 15% of our total revenue.
Last year, Vietnam's trade turnover with ASEAN reached $42.1 billion. Experts have suggested that enterprises should further study new markets, especially niche markets, so they can prepare for the creation of the ASEAN Economic Community.
Guangnam's 6 industrial zones and 142 investment projects are indicative of this central province's infrastructural strength. This has allowed Guangnam to achieve an average GDP increase of 11.5% year-on-year since 2011. The following report takes a look back at Guangnam's economic journey for the past 5 years.
One of the greatest successes of Guangnam's development over the past 5 years has been its transport system, with over 62% of capital invested into this infrastructure. This has stimulated the flow of products in the region, bringing investment to once remote areas, such as Chu Lai Open Economic Zone.
Industrial investment and production have provided positive results. A 90% contribution to total GDP by the sector is within reach.
Within 5 years, over 3,200 businesses have been formed, increasing the total number of businesses to 4,800. This has created more jobs for local people. However, improving vocational quality and versatility still remains a major issue for Guangnan Province.
We've managed to provide vocational training to over 50% of workers in the region. 40 to 45% of this group are employed. This is an area we need to focus on.
Production for export has contributed nearly 90% of Guangnam's provincial budget revenue, with about 2/3 coming from private-owned enterprises. Therefore, investment into infrastructure and vocational quality must remain consistent for sustainable economic development for the next 5 years.
Coming up next on VTV News, Ho Chi Minh City anti-flooding project shows positive results in several streets. Newer market on the outskirts of Hanoi still maintains the characteristics of the Vietnamese traditional market.
Exotic Vietnam is an intriguing blend of many charms. This land is where all manner of stunning landscapes await like a visual feast, rivaled only by the beauty of its people and their abundantly rich tradition and culture. Here is where you can relive the past in richest color or live it up in the bright lights of the big city. With so much more to offer, Vietnam is simply unforgettable.
Welcome back to VTV News, brought to you live from Hanoi. Ministry of Health, World Health Organization and World Bank, as well as the European Union, are working together to strengthen healthcare at grassroots level as part of advances towards universal health coverage. A conference on this joint effort is being held from March 24th to March 25th in the central city of Hue. The conference has welcomed more than 300 participants from different agencies and departments of the party, National Assembly, government, ministries, international organizations in Vietnam, as well as foreign experts. Participants at the conference are discussing international experiences in the development of medical establishments and measures to improve the availability of healthcare services in primary healthcare facilities as part of the efforts to implement universal health coverage in Vietnam. Although it has achieved remarkable results, the healthcare system and primary healthcare network still face many difficulties and challenges, including changes in disease patterns with non-communicable diseases, growth in complicated accidents and injuries, emerging diseases with complications, and an aging population. According to the Ministry of Health, at present, the National Primary Healthcare Network can only deal with 70% of healthcare needs at local level. According to the World Health Organization, changing lifestyles, urbanization, and pollution have dramatically affected Vietnam's disease structure, with non-communicable diseases now accounting for 75% of the country's deaths. This issue has been discussed by Vietnamese and Swiss experts as a two-day dialogue event on Wednesday and Thursday in Hanoi. Swiss experts suggested fundamental steps for Vietnam to build an agenda of research and intervention in the future.
During the 2010-2015 period, the World Health Organization recorded that the number of people in Vietnam died of infectious diseases such as HIV, avian influenza H1N1, or TB disease dropped to 12%. Meanwhile, the respective number in non-communicable diseases such as cancer, diabetes, or chronic respiratory rocketed at 75%. Experts concluded that pollution in Vietnam, including air, drinking water, and food contamination, has been one of the direct causes for the significant rise of non-communicable disease cases. At the conference, Professor Nino Quensley, Deputy Director of the Swiss Tropical and Public Health Institute, shared that prevention of chronic diseases was not caused by individual behavior and was duty that needed addressing by the government.
Yes, the good thing is that environmental factors can be tackled with good policies. I can absolutely emphasize that the example I made before, like air pollution, is definitely a factor where Vietnam can improve. And how to do that is what we have seen in many countries in the West in the last 30 years. If you implement the right policies, air quality can very much improve, and that is to the benefit of public health.
Besides the government's efforts, experts also expected that the private sector will spark real changes by designing, developing, and implementing new models. The sector is also expected to mobilize the expertise and resources to make a significant contribution to respond to the health needs of population.
Innovation in the field of digital health in Vietnam would also be very helpful to address more this dual burden. And there's where the private sector can really play a role to take some risks, to try new models out, and then see if it works. And if it does work, we would find partners to scale it up to the rest of the country, for example.
Chúng tôi sẽ
We, in cooperation with the Hanoi School of Public Health and other relevant departments and offices, will further research the conference findings to build a detailed agenda. I strongly believe that the insights will significantly helpful and meaningful for Vietnam Ministry of Health to build a practical strategy that complies with international practice.
The results of a dialogue will be used to determine the next phase of research and intervention regarding improvements in public health care services in Vietnam.
Over the past 15 years, Ho Chi Minh City has spent about $2 billion on anti-flooding projects. However, to prevent its roads from turning into rivers after heavy rains and tides, the city still needs to invest an approximate $8 billion. Currently, the city's anti-flooding project has shown results in several streets in the city, making a positive impact on people's daily lives.
4 months ago, Tam Binh Street in Thủ Đức district was still under construction, leading to traffic congestion. The street was prone to floods because it lacked a proper drainage system, which meant that it turned into a river after heavy rains. After the renovation, however, the street is clear, bringing relief to residents here.
I'm very happy. The traffic is much better.
The renovation of Tam Binh Street was part of Ho Chi Minh City's anti-flooding project. From an area that floods after every heavy rain, now the lives of the residents here have improved and more stores and restaurants have opened along the street.
Doing business is a lot easier now. I'm very happy with the work that the city has done.
Each year, Ho Chi Minh City spends approximately $46 million on anti-flood projects. Tam Binh Street is only one example of an efficient road renovation plan that has improved the lives of the local residents.
We saw that if the current situation persists, it would negatively affect the lives of the residents. The city tried to work with investors and contractors to resolve the problems facing these residents. Now, as the project is nearly finished, we can see that it will allow the community to flourish.
As the rainy season approaches for Ho Chi Minh City, the residents here no longer have to worry about flood-proofing their homes. The city and the Mekong Delta region are among the areas most affected by climate change and rising sea levels, so improving the region's roads is part of the wider plans to help local residents.
Heading forward the 40th anniversary of Reunification Day on April 30th and the 70th National Day on September 2nd, the People's Army publisher and Thai Hai Books, a joint stock company, have published a book on Vietnamese generals of the 20th centuries told by their relatives.
Feats of arms, lessons on the art of war, and combat methods of Vietnam's foremost military geniuses during the 20th centuries are vividly told in the first volume of a book. Aside from their revolutionary careers, the book also tells their daily lives through many precious documents and stories retold by their family members.
The book was made possible thanks to the serious amounts of joint research done by the publishers. The book expresses the thanks of a newer generations for Uncle Ho's soldiers, and work also shows how these leading military figures live with their families. It is always a motivation for the soldiers to overcome obstacles.
The book launch saw the participation of the generals. They shared feelings about their loved ones with readers, giving them a deeper sense of the nation's wars.
The impression of my father is extremely deep in my mind. I remember when I was a contact, 14 years old, my father gave me a book. He wrote, "For my son Dong Hai, study progressive ideas." This memory touched me the most. I think the book is a priceless documentary about the golden generation of the Vietnam People's Army. The generation allows youth today to make film, poetry, music, and art, educating traditional lessons. so they can see the price of peace we have today.
This book features 15 generals in the resistant war against the French colonists and the American imperialists. Through the book, readers will see the leadership and their great contributions to the revolutionary cause of the party.
Limnus motivational speaker Nick Vujicic has returned to Vietnam for the third time for Shining Vietnamese World 2015 Nick U and Dai Galas. The program will take place in Ho Chi Minh City, Nghệ An Province and Lâm Đồng Province. Nick Vujicic will directly talk with disadvantaged children in Ho Chi Minh City to share stories about his life, his perspective, happiness and good values that each person strives for. Nick Vujicic, with his stories about his life, have touched the hearts of thousands of Vietnamese during his visit to Vietnam in 2013 and 2014. Nuo, market on the outskirts of Hanoi that still maintains the characteristics of a Vietnamese traditional market. People come here not only to trade, but also to relive the atmosphere of a countryside market in the 19th century. The following report will take you to Nuo Market in Ha Tây District, Hanoi.
Nuo Market is a traditional market that has managed to preserve its traditional features since the 19th century. Some old ladies come in here still wear the clothing of the past and chew betel. Many sellers come here not only for trade, but mostly because of the atmosphere.
I come here because it's a lot of fun. Tomatoes are 5,000 Vietnamese dong per kilo, morning glory at 2,000. I normally make about 200,000 Vietnamese dong a day. They're all homegrown vegetables.
Some sellers have been here for a few decades, despite the many ups and downs experienced by the market.
My business is not as good as before. Sales are only a third of that before. Most people have switched to plastic goods.
Nuo Market opens 6 days a month. It mostly sells traditional goods such as household and farm equipment, fruits, and conical hats. The market is always crowded, even on rainy days. This is truly traditional market. I meet a lot of acquaintances and friends here.
The prices here are quite reasonable. They have fish, shrimp, and everything is fresher than in the supermarket.
Most of the products here are produced by the local people in the district. The other distinctive features of Nuo Market are the local accent and the way people move elegantly along the small muddy paths.
And as usual, before we say goodbye, let's take a look at the weather updates. And that just wraps up this live edition of VTV News. Thank you very much for being with us. You can just log on to vtv4.vn or youtube.com/vtv4go for other updates. And goodbye for now.